Welcome. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nations, and I'd like to pay my respect to elders past and present. This week we look at the cultural construction of health. Culture plays a significant role in defining how people view health and fitness, beliefs about the causes of diseases, and which diseases are stigmatized and why. Culture is another bow in our critical thinking hat when it comes to talking about health and health inequities. What is culture? A definition is afforded on screen. Culture is a system of thoughts, beliefs, customs, and behaviours shared by a group of people. Culture can be referencing entire countries of people, for example, the culture shared by Australians, or specific subgroups. Cultural diversity arises from a range of factors such as class, gender, sexuality, race, and ethnicity. So culture considers individual differences that are important and that may shape classification or identification with a subcultural group. Culture endures and evolves. It changes, it's not fixed. What is considered a disease in one culture or time may be considered normal and healthy elsewhere or at another time. For example, homosexuality was once considered a psychiatric disorder, despite the lack of scientific evidence of pathology. It is no longer considered a medical disorder. This is an example of how cultural beliefs, social practices, and social institutions shape or construct the ways in which health and illness are understood. Notions of health and illness are not necessarily objective facts, but can be social constructions that reflect the culture of a particular society. Different cultural understandings of the causes of health and illness are learned and passed on through generations. Culture is often explained using the iceberg model. Icebergs are often used as metaphors when the majority of forces that influence what is seen on top, above the water level, are out of sight, but are deeply influential. Certain aspects of culture are reproduced over and over again to the point that we don't even know how we know them or how we came to be adhering to these norms. For example, you and I understand the concept of the working week. It's Monday to Friday, typically 9 to 5. We have a comprehensive understanding of time. Similarly, we know what is considered beautiful in our culture. We know what it means to recognize someone as having a particular gender. We have established sets of norms around what typical behavior look like for someone assigned male at birth or someone assigned female at birth. When we talk about culture, we're talking about deeply ingrained and sometimes invisible intersecting structures. It's important that you understand what is meant by the cultural iceberg. The cultural iceberg demonstrates two critical points. One, that the majority of cultural factors impacting health lie below the surface, below the water level. And two, that these factors are most influential. Below the water level, we see a listing of so-called deep cultural factors that are not visible to the naked eye, but are deeply influential. Culture is not just ethnicity. No, it's about politics, morality, religion, class, gender identity, gender expression, sexuality, norms of behavior, a sense of security or safety or belonging. Culture is necessarily broad and influences health. So where does culture fit into the human experience? On screen is something that is quite testable if I were writing a quiz. There's a subtle hint there. A good one for your quiz. What are the 3 levels of being human? As indicated on this slide, they are individual, cultural, and universal. You are an individual. You are necessarily embedded in a culture, and it is through your experience of that culture that you learn to understand the world. Your experience of culture, of belonging in a society, will be invariably and significantly shaped by these factors listed on screen. Your task is to pick one factor that is of relevance to you and spend 15 minutes jotting down how that factor impacts your experience of belonging to a culture and in turn impacts your health. This activity appears as activity 4.1. This concludes video 1. Please complete Activity 4.1. This should take about 15 minutes.